Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Hans Brown, and I'm the Global Head of Enterprise Innovation, as well as the CIO for Corporate Technology for BNY Mellon. And I'm absolutely thrilled to share the next 45 minutes with you on how we are building a really amazing FinTech innovator that looks at transformation within the data platform for the financial services industry. And I'm joined by two of my colleagues who've been heavily, intimately involved in this work, and hopefully we'll get a few takeaways that will educate us, surprise us, and maybe delight us in equal measure. So maybe if I kind of start off first with a little bit of a philosophical setting in terms of the way I kind of look and I see innovation and the intersection between real digital and technology and how that transforms itself into, creating a FinTech innovator within this really large historic organization. So firstly, let me just kind of start off with, I'm a firm believer in openness. I subscribe to the open source, whether it's in the handsets I choose, the platforms I develop code in, the causes I support. I'm a huge believer in openness. Because in openness, I think we have, as a society, a chance to harness the collective intelligence of the entire world. By being open, we encourage more contributions, we encourage a diverse viewpoint, we encourage perspectives other than our own, which not only enriches the conversation, but actually allows us to get to a better outcome. So that whole philosophy of being open to the world, and not just of being open, but also contributing back and giving back by virtue of being open and allowing others to grow and nurture within our ecosystem is something that fundamentally not only is important to me, but is important to the organization as a whole. Then the second part of it is by being open, you get a chance to bring in a diverse viewpoint that usually you wouldn't get in a closed ecosystem. So when I kind of look at closed ecosystems thrive by the virtue of the amount of investment that you can make in the closed ecosystem. So the limit is entirely the investment that you as an organization or you as a company or you as an individual can sustain. But by being open, your investment is not limited, it's actually multiplied, and it becomes a multiplicative behavior as opposed to an additive one. The second piece is by being open and encouraging different voices, you bring diversity into the equation. And this for me is diversity in all its forms. It's diversity of thought, diversity of background, diversity of industry, diversity of perspectives. The greater diversity, the better the outcome. And it's great. I look at this panel, I don't think any two of us are alike, whether it's background, experience, where we come from, where we've grown up, where we went to school. So that, again, really encourages me because that's what I talk about when I look at openness. So kind of really excited to kind of talk to the both of you, Bhargavi and Trinanjan. And I wanted to kind of maybe start off first with, we as an organization have our Omni philosophy. So maybe Trinanjan, why don't I get you to start kind of talking about what do you think of this Omni philosophy and how does it mean as to how we look towards building products within this within this large organization?
Thank you, Hans, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you who are dialing in from various parts of the globe. As Hans mentioned, my name is Trinanjan Sengupta. I am from a professional services group here based out of Singapore, running our product implementations for the data and analytics solutions within BNY Mellon. And Hans, you struck the right chord. I think the spirit open source culture, the spirit of openness is the key. And not only a philosophy, but when we look across financial services, when we roll on investment operations with buy-side organizations, it's the same culture, it's that same mindset. How do I, the best of the minds, how do I bring in the best-in-class technology, the best-of-breed models, and truly create the best that truly working. And that's exactly where we come in. We recently, when a survey was done across buy-side professionals, it was only about, I would say 1/4 of the forum who actually said that within 20 25 are looking for a front to back office solution, and most of them are actually looking to have a streamlined platform that gives them that access to a core, having that open ecosystem, that open platform.
So Trinanjan, I'm getting...
That's where our Omni strategy comes in.
So maybe let me kind of expand a little bit. Just take maybe a second or two, and give the audience a chance to understand what that Omni strategy is. And maybe actually let me use moderator's privileges. Maybe Bhargavi, I'll go to you and I'll maybe kind of look. So Trinanjan has basically looked at the whole philosophy of this, but I don't think we had a chance to be able to actually expand on what does Omni really mean? What does it stand for? What is the philosophy behind it? And as a fellow engineer, what does it mean?
Well, Hans, why don't you start with the definition itself? I won't expand on the definition.
All right. So from one engineer to another. So if I kind of think of our Omni strategy, our Omni philosophy, Omni for us is our way of doing work, our way of building products, our way of engaging to the customers. It stands for being open to the world. I talked about how being open is one of the most important things that for us as an organization, we're focused on in terms of how we build our products, how we build our services, how we engage the wider ecosystem, and how we really transform the financial services network, the financial services infrastructure. The second bit is modular. The solutions we build need to be modular. They need to be able to plug into each other so that the parts together can be assembled and reassembled and pulled in together to basically create a constituent that satisfies a client in a way that they want to be satisfied. Not in a way that we determine, in a way that they want to be satisfied. So how I combine all of the components, how I pull them together and how we put them apart and how we substitute components, all of our solutions look towards real modularity. The end looks at how do we use all of this to create a network. And it's not enough to think you can do it alone. The financial services ecosystem is complicated. It requires many participants. And any solution that we pull together requires us to actually build a network that allows us to service the client from front all the way to back in an end-to-end manner that's actually really compelling. Which kind of leads to the last piece, which is all of these things have got to be integrated. And there's no point having modular solutions that are built in a network that are open if they don't actually integrate together. And so if I kind of think of that, and I think as a company, as an organization, I'm going to maybe do a segue to, we had a talk yesterday at the Lab Festival where we're lucky enough to have Donald Rabb, one of our Java champions, speak at it. Now, the question that a lot of people asked on that particular call is, what is an organization like us, 235 years old, a bank, doing having Java champions that contribute to the open source network? And in a way, try and grow something that's open source. So, if I kind of think of that, so Bhargavi, from an engineering standpoint, kind of going back to that Omni philosophy, how do we use that in terms of how we build products?
Speaking, it was resonating everything with me. I'm hearing a little bit of echo. I hope it's over now.
It's okay.
Okay, so first of all, when you talked about openness, right? So in the solution that we have for data and analytics, there is a possibility to completely build a solution for customer. And to your point, it's all about customer, whatever they want, right? Either completely on-prem or, using Microsoft Azure is what our partnership is. And we have built on the public cloud using Microsoft Azure. So you can build it on-prem or in public cloud or a combination of two. You can have data assets in any of those places and bring it together. And to your point about modularity, a customer can then choose which parts of it does he want. Like he can have the data lake within his own premise, but he can use our studio for kind of looking at the machine learning models and stuff like that. Similarly, you could have structured data, you could have unstructured data. variety of and being able to, and this comes directly from the cloud, you can scale it as the data grows. So you don't have to have that upfront decided. And then the part about, and I'm trying to remember all of the points you were talking, Hans. You did it with so much effortlessness. I'm getting there. And then the next part is like to actually be able to integrate it in a meaningful, seamless way, right? So again, the customer can see as he's building his warehouse, using the flexible warehouse model, and we have an ability using our catalog to see the transformations and to see what do we want to do. And when we think of all of data, you want to know that there is data governance, right? So, and we use rich machine learning models, which continuously determine how the data lineage is being established, what kind of rules is it breaking, and you can choose at what threshold do you want to accept the data. So there's a lot of richness in all of it, but exactly aligned to the Omni philosophy you were talking about. So that's what is exciting. And you know, when I think of the product we are building, I don't see the 250-year-old legacy other than the desire to be accountable to our customers. So let me pass it back to you.
So I actually, so maybe Trinanjan, let me poke you a little bit because we had a little bit of sound at the start. So a couple of sound issues at the start. So, you know, if I kind of think Bhargavi is looking at this from the engineering standpoint, and I want you to maybe really focus on, you know, forget the engineering. Think about the outcomes our clients are. Why would something like this be important? You know, if I kind of think of huge fintech, you know, these emerging fintechs that are growing, are looking at client experience as key, data analytics, bringing in new insights. In terms of as we conceptualize the product, why does that make a difference?
Absolutely, great question. And by the way, is my audio okay, or at least is it better now? Can you hear me fine?
It is definitely better now. You're consistent, and I was having to go and check to make sure my kids weren't unplugging the internet connection in the back of my house, which is what I was kind of worried about.
All right, kudos to my headphones. Okay, so you know, I think you mentioned a few key points, and Bhargavi, you also hopped on a strong, very key important point that clients do not want to be boxed into the idea of getting locked into a single solution at the upfront itself. The element of choice, that's the key. As we look at the data landscape and as we look at the client requirements, data management is vastly, you know, it's completely changing. The framework, the landscape is completely changing. If I look at the onslaught of data, be it the volume, be it the complexity, be it the velocity, or the data shapes, that's completely changing. And there are different players. You know, not one player might be solving all of the problems. There could be clients who are looking at, you know, building their various books of records. There could be clients who are looking into alternative data sets, bringing in unstructured data. And as Bhargavi mentioned, it's like a data factory, right? You have to bring all of the data in. It's, you know, you have to assemble it, have to catalog it, apply data quality, and get timely, accurate data in order to reduce your risks and get the business outcomes. So as clients are looking at this landscape and this, you know, fast evolving scenario, it's all about getting that competitive landscape. And that's where being open, being modular, truly allows our clients to bring in that best of breed technology, allows you to bring in the best in class software platforms, the SaaS providers, our products onto that open ecosystem that clients can truly use to have that, you know, frictionless front to back operating model that can allow clients to focus on their priorities, be agile, be nimble, and grow, bringing in the efficient results. So that's the key. And that's where, you know, having that open player, that open platform where you can bring in, you know, you mentioned the Java example. There are so many open source solutions, so many platforms that are being built that our Omni strategy, our Omni platform can allow clients to quickly plug into their technology choice, the tools that they want to use in order to build the modern data landscape, the data architecture to get the best out of data and analytics that we have to offer. Back to you, Hans.
So let me kind of, and again, you both kind of made very valid points, but for, you know, as it comes to products, and I'm a huge believer in culture within organizations. it's been said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. I kind of go one more. And for me, culture is the real operating system of any organization. And like all OSs, it doesn't matter. The things that sit on top of the OS run better if you have an OS that's continuously upgraded, that's continuously fresh, that's continuously optimized, and so on. So if I kind of think of the culture of an organization being that operating system, how do you, and contrasting that to the culture that comes in and that we're looking for within the fintech, from the fintechs and so on. So Bhargavi, let me maybe start on you. What do you think that's done to that culture within, from an engineering perspective? And Trinanjan, I'll come to you in terms of how that affects that culture from the product perspective. So you get about another 5 minutes, another 2 minutes to think of an answer, while Bhargavi is on point trying to talk about it from an engineering perspective.
So every time there is a mic switching noise. When I think of the culture, Hans, like you is an ambassador of that. And if you look at every layer within the organization hierarchy, all the way from executives to the youngest developers, we truly have diverse workforce. And there are a lot of EBRG groups, employee resource groups, where people can have this sense of inclusiveness and belongingness, and also raise concerns, if any. And that helps to also kind of do mentoring at various levels in the organization, and kind of truly invest in that spirit. Now, in terms of, you asked this question as a comparison to fintech, I want to compare it to, I haven't been in a fintech per se, but I have been in Amazon in the past. And to me,
I think Amazon still considers themselves a fintech, even though most of us give them a hard time. But we'll let you have that one.
No, like Amazon, although it was like really huge, but it was still very, like, every small team had its own autonomy. And so I think in that sense, the part that builds the data and analytics solution within the bank has complete autonomy and empowerment. And we come up with ideas, we brainstorm with people like Trinanjan who are facing customer. And we have that whole product owner hierarchy under Steve Taylor and Steve Marshall. And so we, kind of actively partner with our customers. We're not building it in vacuum. And the reason why, BNY Mellon based solutions are great for this industry is because we have history of building solutions that take into account security. Like while we have multi-tenancy as a possibility, but we also have it with proper entitlements for data. You can choose how you want to share your data or hold it to yourself. What kind of models do you want to run? Do you verification of those models? So the flexibility that comes with the product is based on years of experience of building finance solutions. So, I'm sorry, I'm digressing again towards the engineering side, but it comes.
That's exactly what I want, because then that way I can hold Trinanjan totally accountable for the other side, because, I kind of think that symbiosis of engineering, deep engineering, and then deep product is what makes the output that you're all generating so great. So no, definitely keep going.
I just wanted to end with one last point. Like, when we're building these solutions, we're building truly agile DevOps, meaning there is no single code that gets committed in our code repositories without having at least 90 to 95% code coverage. The build breaks if those coverages are not met. So, this is exactly what I have done in Amazon. Like, the CI/CD pipeline is completely automated. So every feature deployment can be done by individual developers at their own pace. So that comes because of the speed at which we can deploy, as well as an ability to check the integrated product with other code base that already exists in our system. So it's the people, it's the process and the technology that we are using underneath, and the culture that we have built. To your very point of culture, I completely concur with you. Does not matter the engineering vision we might have. If we don't have proper culture, it's just not possible. So we have that in this part of the organization for sure.
So Trinanjan, over to you. So we've got a really deep engineering build in terms of look at Agile, we look at DevOps, we look at continuous code coverage, we look at builds with Sonar. The engineering teams are set up, and again, from my background, music to my ears. What about you guys in the front? How are you doing?
And that open culture is the key. I think being involved.
First need to accept that it is not great, Trinanjan. That's what Hans is.
Yeah, and when I look across the product teams, when I look across our clients, when I look across our client-facing teams, it's spirit of open culture, being empowered to be open, to voice your opinion, to bring in your ideas, question the status quo, question what we are building, and ensuring that we are building the right product is the key. We have, expert engineers like Bhargavi. We have engineers coming in from the likes of Microsoft, Amazon, Google, etc., who are bringing in the best-in-class engineering talent. And however, we always feel, we from the product team, we from the client-facing teams, who are always feeling empowered to bring in the client perspective. And as we go through the agile journey, as Bhargavi mentioned, of building it quickly, failing fast if required. And if we fail, we can question the product that's being built. We can ask the right questions and say, hey guys, it's a really, really smart product that we are building, but is it solving my client's business outcome? Is me what I truly needed? And that's the key, having that ecosystem, having that atmosphere that allows that open culture where people feel empowered from a product perspective to bring in the right industry knowledge, to bring in the client's perspective, bring that to the engineering disciplines, bringing that to the engineering leadership like Bhargavi, Fernando. That open culture to build the right solution is the key. And I think we're really fortunate to have our clients who are embracing that culture as well. They are partnering with us in this journey. Some of the thought leadership that our clients are bringing in, especially in the Asia Pacific region, and Hans will speak about it at length later on. That's truly encouraging. They are bringing in the right perspective. They are being open. They are having that culture of that feedback loop where we can take our perspective, bring their true mindset in as to what they want to build and see in the products as we go to the product management discipline. And partnering with people like yourself from the senior leadership, from Bhargavi from engineering, that enables us to build the right product, having that open culture, having that open forum.
So let me ask a question, and I love the fact that I get to moderate, so I don't have to answer the questions, I just get to ask them. So maybe Bhargavi, let me start with you. I love, one of the things I always loved when I lived out in Asia, everybody talks about the chicken and the egg problem. Chicken first or the egg first? Engineering first or product first?
I will say this, first and foremost is product. If you don't have a solution that matters to customer, engineering is of no good use. So I
break my heart. As an engineer, you break my heart. I agree with you, but you break my heart.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm by the way, this is Amazon philosophy as well. We always started with a press release and we work backwards. So I love that fact that, if you cannot innovate for customer, you're not building anything cool, right? So, and I love this camaraderie that I share with Trinanjan and Steve and others, like where we can kind of have that open, healthy conversation and dialogue, and they give me feedback in how we are building our products. So, but if we need to have those fast feedback loops with our solutions, and that's the only way we can make it. I'm one of those who loves the initial wireframes being presented to customer, getting those early feedback, even if it doesn't look cool. So
that's cool. All right, so let me kind of pivot through. I spent 7 years in APAC, made many friends, and I'll say this COVID experience, making sure that I haven't been back in Singapore for what my nutritional needs have been severely neglected as I've been out in the US. So the first time I've promised all my friends, the first time I come into Singapore, I'm not going to probably lock myself in Chinatown, Little India, and then probably down by Telokaya and never leave for at least until I weigh an extra 20 kilos more before I get back. So kind of talking about what, pivoting into Asia. Trinanjan, maybe if I start with you, these are great solutions and we're obviously building them on a global scale. but let's maybe make it a little bit more hyperlocal. Why is what we're doing relevant to clients based out in Asia?
Great question. And I moved from the States over to Singapore a little over a year ago. And I was privy to the client perspective that the clients in the States brought to us. I used to work out of the United Kingdom earlier, so we get the perspective as well. After moving here to Singapore, one of my responsibilities was to work with clients, understand their business requirements and the business outcomes that they want to get out of a true data analytics platform, and work with the likes of Bhargavi to ensure that we're building the right solution. And I was thrilled and amazed to see some of the use cases that we are getting in this region. Without naming the client, we have an asset owner who have a global real estate team. The way that they're looking at alternative data sets, the way that they're looking at unstructured data, I think is game changing. So what they're trying to do is, as opposed to having anecdotal evidences when it comes to investing in real estate properties, tenancy selections, and demographic categorization, they are looking at newer alternative data sets. They are looking at things like video footage of car parking lots. They're looking at footfall traffic. They're doing sensitivity analysis from news content and social media feeds. They're looking at Internet of Things. They're getting device readings from thermostats from a carbon or a thermal power plant. They're looking at geospatial imagery. They're getting satellite images of an oil spill from a cargo ship in the ocean, and trying to correlate that back to the sustainability graphs that we get from a particular company. That's the use case that we are hearing from here in this. And when I take this back to our global product management teams based out of US, obviously here in APAC and EMEA, the feedback that we're getting is, hey, that's really groundbreaking. Not too many clients are thinking in that perspective. And sorry, Hans, but I think Asia Pacific is leading the crowd over here. Our business development teams are telling us, wow, that's really progressive. These use cases are truly forward thinking. You guys go build it, have Bhargavi build it for us. We will sell it globally. Right.
So that's any of my product teams in the US, Trinanjan has basically laid down the gauntlet. So all I'm just saying is it's a friendly gauntlet. But as Trinanjan's laid down the gauntlet to all of the teams that are in the US listening and EMEA, the gauntlet's truly down. And yes, I do kind of miss my time back out in Asia, and I'm kind of looking at maybe Bhargavi, just kind of. You run obviously a large asset servicing technology team in India that does a lot of the development work on this. What are you seeing in terms of nuances, in terms of the engineering approach between the East and the West? Trinanjan's very focused on the product needs, are more sophisticated. What are you seeing on the engineering side?
So in terms of this, Hans, like talent is same across the globe as far as I understand. Developers, at least I have worked in India, and I also had a team in Poland and US. Developers that are high quality developers are there across the globe, and you just have to be kind of always on the lookout for the top talent, and then you get the same kind of engineering capabilities. I think where we might have a little lesser edge in the non-COVID world was like when you were working in US, you had an opportunity to work closely with customers and get feedback loops faster. I think with the COVID world, somehow this got homogenized because everybody is virtual, and in a lot of ways, this has created a lot more inclusivity because nobody's in the room. So everybody is talking on the phone. So everybody has come up with the, ways in which people can kind of be accepting of, imperfect scenarios and wanting to collaborate better and make sure every voice is heard in the conversation. So that has been, going back to your question, in India, the development talent and the engineering speed, that itself has never been a problem. The problem was more with customer feedback loops, which I think, especially in this virtual world, it has helped us in some ways as a blessing, because now people are, actually okay with anybody being in any room and kind of wanting to share that feedback.
So if I kind of think the data analytics business of BNY Mellon ultimately is a fintech, it behaves like a fintech, it's building on the cloud, it's building products, it's basically got the engineering first mindset, it's got the feedback loops that we talked about, all of this stuff is kind of really, really great. So for all of those other organizations that are looking to do the same kind of thing, maybe I'll ask you both in turn. How do you see best practice in terms of balancing product, engineering, and what the client's looking for, and while still staying true to our purpose? Trinanjan, maybe if I start with you.
I'll go first. So I think the first thing that clients will need to keep in mind is building the right platform to ensure that you have access to clean data available for your key business teams from anywhere in the world. We mentioned the key point about how COVID has kind of reimagined the global landscape, and I agree with her. If I may slightly digress and talk about the client's success story here in this region, we had a client who was starting the data and technology transformation journey right when the global pandemic hit the globe. People were forced to go back to their homes. This particular client, they are an asset manager out of Australia. Their front office teams had never worked in a telecommuting arrangement ever before. So they were really circumspect as to whether, we should start such a major program at this stage. Should we rather push out the program? However, we had this organization who were partnering with us, who were truly invested in that change. They were truly invested in building the right platform for the future. And, I think it was a great success story where both BNY Mellon and our client organizations came together. The leadership said, no, we are all in. We are going to go forward with this. Both the teams, the data analytics team and the client team, they worked together in a completely remote environment, which I personally would never have imagined because, we're all client facing, working with the client at the client side, conducting workshops, whiteboarding, etc. So we did all of that remotely. Had that agile mindset, worked in that remote working environment. And we are surprised and also pleasantly proud to say that we actually delivered the program on the budget and on time. Not too many deliveries can actually say that. So I think, while that was a great success story out there in the times of COVID, but at the same time, some key best practices came in. We had a client who were truly invested in going through that journey, going through the transformation and change, and identifying the true business needs and setting them up in a way of stepping stones towards the future. So instead of jumping on to, applying, let's say, AI and machine learning first, they realized what their true pain points are. They know that you have to bring in that data culture within that organization. Bringing all of your asset classes, if I look at buy-side firms, onto a single platform, getting that clean data platform, being able to aggregate data, catalog them, apply data quality, and make them accessible to your teams, that's your first stepping stone. Your machine learning models are only as good as your data. If your data is fragmented, if it's happening in a siloed manner, machine learning models are not going to be effective. So identifying your business problems, stack ranking them in terms of priority, and then selecting the best of breed solutions that the industry has to offer in that open platform is the key. So I would say these are some of the emerging best practices that are coming in, and being invested in that journey. That's the key thing. That's your pathway to success.
That's a great answer. So Bhargavi, maybe pivoting the same thing to you, the same question to you in terms of balancing the product, the engineering, and those client needs as a really large, as a fintech within this 236-year-old company.
So when I think about it, very first data warehouse I built was within Microsoft for enterprise, for Microsoft as an enterprise. And when I compare that to what I'm doing here now, the key difference is because we are focused on our clients. And we have this rich experience and expertise of handling this data for banking sector. Let me explain, right? So we recently won multiple awards for our ESG solution for environment, social, and governance related investor choices. I was reviewing, how we built that product, and I'm only celebrating the win. Actual solution was done by Trinanjan and Amal. But the thing is, I couldn't even think that, okay, customer will need an ability to look at this much information in a single screen because that helps him to speed up his decisions, or he will need flexibility on being able to choose 50% threshold at this or 20%. Engineering it is so easy. It's like any kid can build this code these days, right? It's like algorithms are all commoditized. I mean, I like, there's no pride in just writing code. Code is easiest thing to do. But the more important thing is to be able to actually understand the business domain in which you're operating and understand what will really trick the customer. How can he make his life simpler? How can he make decisions in real time? Why does it need to be available 24/7? What kind of data latency is acceptable to them or not acceptable to them? So I think that's what we have been able to deliver with ESG, and that's what got us Walters Award yesterday, or I think there was another one, American Top Technology Innovator Award. So these awards are not coming because of engineering. We got it even when we were building on Power BI versus now we are building on a very fancy UI. The UI is less important. It's more about what we are delivering to our customers. How much information do they need to see in a single pane? What kind of decisions do they need to make? What kind of decision flexibility do they need to have? I think the best part, going back to your Omni philosophy, I didn't hear this term before. That's why I gave it back to you. But I mean, like I mean, truly we have built it very modular. Truly we have built it in which where various parties can come together. Right. So like we have this concept of data rooms where, if you want, from the same solution, you can choose to who all you want to share your data. That's like so cool, so powerful. Then I don't have to build it again and again, right? So everything that we are building is like about that customer, what we are building, how is it going to enable, simplify his life? How do we all of our best practices in engineering, be it security, be it multi-tenancy, be it elasticity? A lot of this is actually a factor of cloud, but it is not just that, because with the fabric, you can integrate real-time data that might be there in your lake, data that might be there in public cloud, all of that integration, and that is actually sub-second response. Can you believe it? Like the data size that you might have in the warehouses, the ability to build responses that fast is just unbelievable. So I'm very proud of the solution team is building, and I'm just happy to be representing them here. But actual hard work is being done by someone else in the team. But fantastic teamwork here.
So you remind me of something, and I'll take a segue. I always used to kind of wonder, how people pull together stuff. And a very wise woman I worked for once kind of told me, when I was eminently frustrated with a piece of code I was writing, and most developers know this, you're writing a piece of code, and for the one of love nor money, this damn thing wouldn't compile. It just wouldn't do. And I was getting eminently frustrated. And this really wise engineering leader, she came up to me and she said, look, writing code is like poetry. The words on their own, they're just words. But combining them in that special way that generates an emotion, that's what makes something great. Nobody thinks about the individual words, the individual letters, no, but it's how you put them together, the story you wish to convey, the pride in which you basically invest in this piece of poetry. That's what makes it. And so to this day, I always look at developing and writing code as, it's a form of poetry. And sometimes my poetry is terrible. And sometimes my poetry is very, very bad. And other times it's a glorious moment, so it's great. So I entirely appreciate the frustration and entirely appreciate the way of looking at it. But, I'm a real firm believer in, creating experiences kind of requires both what you do and what Trinanjan does to create an emotion that actually is something that's compelling.
Add some music to your poetry, and that becomes a beautiful song. So if your poetry is your engineering code, music is the product from the client perspective, and that gives you the final product. There you go, right? And I think Bhargavi,
I love that.
Bhargavi mentioned about ESG, and I would like to mention over here that the journey that we had as we built the ESG data analytics product has been the true representation of that open culture that we had with the clients. Curry Neal, who heads our business applications team globally, she interviewed more than 100 clients when we started this journey with the clients. I myself sat with the clients here in Asia Pacific, and it was that open culture that we saw within our clients as well. ESG, it's a classic, another data challenge, another data problem where how do you bring in the best in class data when it comes to sustainability investing, when it comes to ESG, and truly create your mandate that, that suits whether you're an asset owner or an asset manager. So that perspective of being open, being modular, being able to bring in rapid volumes of data from disparate sources, stitching them together, blending them together to create the analytics that is needed for the client, I think that's exactly a testament to what we are doing in this journey, being open, being modular, bringing in the best in class, whether it's data, systems, and client mindsets to build a product that is right for the customer.
So I'm kind of confident we got 5 minutes left, and I promised I would leave space for questions. So let me just really quickly rapid fire. And I've got one of my own that I've kind of been saving up for. I've been saving up for you guys, so I'll go with that one last. So maybe let me start with the one that's come in. So, and you might have picked it up, but maybe we just need a little bit of expansion. So what's the challenge of working as a fintech within a large global organization? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, Trinanjan.
All right, I will start. One of the challenges that I wouldn't necessarily call this a challenge. I would say there's an opportunity in that challenge is when you have different teams working across the globe and different regions, bringing in different perspectives. Not only do you have the problem of battling time zones when the different teams come together, but bringing in the right regional perspective as to what product we're building is the key. There are regional nuances to every product that we're building. Bhargavi, as you would understand, when it comes to Asia Pacific, there are data sovereignty and data residency laws and regulations that we have to work with. Now, if I look at a global scale, Hans might argue, no, I got to prioritize on something else. But I'll tell Hans, if I don't solve this problem first, I'm not going to be able to sell and commercialize my product in this region. So ensuring that I bring in the regional perspective, not only from my clients, but also from a product management and the product disciplines that we have here in this region, bringing into the global scale, tying it together is key. I'm hesitant to call this as a challenge. I would call this something that is an opportunity for us to ensure that we solve this the right way. But yeah, Hans, you may call this as a challenge that always comes.
I'll let you half off because I know what I'm going to ask you next. I'll let you half off because I know what's coming next. Bhargavi, same thing to you.
It's funny because the interesting part was I started on the bank side and now I moved on to the fintech side of the bank. And so I often find myself justifying why some policies exist on the bank side. It's kind of weird because, you think of somebody who has worked for a decent time in Microsoft and Amazon and with all that experience. And now I kind of rationalize why we have to have, a certain review process in between, or, how we are logging or how we are showing evidence of what we are doing, why it is required. And because now I truly appreciate how much regulated this industry is. And so it's not just from my point of view. If I need it in BNY Mellon, I'm sure one of my investors that's using this solution sitting on the client side might also need it. So I think, it is annoying. You don't want to be thinking about it when you're innovating and building fast. But then the problem is you build it and then people will come back and say, hey, you know what, you missed this completely or you missed that completely, right? So I think that's the subtle balance that you have to do, especially when you're innovating for technology firms. I think it does not come as an afterthought for us. It's become the way of coding for us. It's like driving with that discipline, if you will.
So I've got my last question for you both, and I know I'm very conscious of time, so kind of really rapid, no more than a 20-second answer. What's not working today that you're looking to fix? And what would you do differently, knowing what you know now?
So I'll go first. points. I think what could change, I don't want to be that rough and say, hey, it's not working. We have a customer feedback loop in pockets. I think we need to make it more consistent. And we have, even though we are doing daily deployments and all, we're not doing it to end customer, because we have, for the end customer, we still have that same notion of soft launch, MVP soft launch, and GA. I really want to have that more frequent, so I can kind of get to know what customer is not happy with. So that's one thing that I would definitely like to change.
That's it. 30 seconds. So let me just summarize, and I find this really, really great. So things that you'd improve. You're doing daily deployments at the moment now, but you want to do daily deployments all the way through. Now I kind of look, some banks might have an issue, kind of question daily deployments already. They'll think you're far ahead, but I like the ethos you're going through. Trinanjan, 30 seconds.
I'll try and do it. I need a client advisory council. You know, in this region, I'll be selfish. We have this in the States. We don't have that in Asia Pacific. We need that client forum where we can quickly get feedback from our clients as we build the products, show them in a very rapid manner as to what we are building, get the feedback, take it back to engineering, do the next round of the MVP, iterate, bring it back to the client again. We need that consistent feedback in this region. We don't have it today.
So I actually like that. So we're kind of, and just to kind of summarize, and again, thank you both. It's really, really focused on the client experience. And if I kind of think the big lesson that I've taken from all of this is, the obsession that you both demonstrate with what our clients are looking for, the obsession you both demonstrate with wanting more and more feedback to basically validate the work that you're doing, I think is, for me, what actually allows us to create this really amazing fintech within our large organization and serve as a catalyst to really transform us. So from the both of you, I wanted to thank you very much for taking the time, and also for giving us a decent chunk of candor in your responses. And hopefully everybody found this very useful. Thank you.